So I just finished watching the Joe Rogan Donald Trump podcast on the Joe Rogan Experience, and I would have to say I think it went really well for Trump. I don't think it was great. I don't think it was the best thing ever. Like some people are exaggerating a bit, but I think it was good. And there was expectations of Trump to explain some more policies. Maybe Joe asked him some more specific questions about his interests and his worldview. Give him time to answer questions more thoroughly than you get in any interview, and get questions more, solidly than you would get in a town hall or any sort of rally. Right? That he has to stay on topic, but he also gets a lot of time to speak freely. I think that went well for him, but I don't know how much it's going to change. I think in one sense it humanized him. I think when they talk about MMA, when they talk about their interests, when they talk about sports, golf, when he kind of just brings up those things and they talked for maybe a half hour of it or maybe a little bit more about just their interests and the commonality they have, and kind of just shows Trump as a real human being with interests. You saw a little bit more of his worldview. You saw kind of his belief system. I think that was good. I thought that humanized him, and that was necessary to do through this interview. Is like, this guy's still sharp, because they say, oh, but he's too old. It's like, no, Trump can articulate a point. He's just got a very unique way of speaking, and how he said he weaves in things through stories. He doesn't go from A to B very quickly. He kind of goes all over the place, but he always brings it back. And so I thought that was good. And I thought if you sat and listened to him, if you'd never listened to him before, which a lot of people might not have listened to him talk in a way that's just human, a very human one-on-one conversation, which is what a lot of people don't see, but a lot of people say they like Trump. He's very charismatic. He seems to care about you when he talks to you, versus like a rally where he has the energy of, he's got to be out there screaming and yelling, and, it's very different than having a conversation. And you saw another side of Trump that you don't typically see. And even more so than when in interviews, when he's very defensive, he's got to be very clear with his thoughts. They have to be very contained to like a 30-second answer or 1-minute answer. So this was a good format. And I think a lot of people will see Trump for the first time in this light, which is good. Especially independent people on the fence who maybe the former never Trumpers who are like, okay, this guy really isn't that bad. Like, he's not deranged. He's not talking about anything crazy. When he's on a one-on-one setting, he's not saying the crazy things I expected him to, like he does on Twitter, right? Pretty cut and dry there. On the other half is the actual information bit. So the parts where Joe Rogan was asking him specific questions about policies, things he wants to do, things he wants to accomplish. That's why the reason I would say this podcast was good and not great is because they touched on some things that I think we already kind of knew. And they didn't really get super deep into things I was hoping to see, like nationalism, bringing pride back to the country, kind of the vision for the country as a whole. Trump gave good policy positions and went in depth and a little bit into them. But as far as like a total comprehensive plan, that wasn't really laid out extravagantly. I think there was certain things. I think the best part was the part where he talked about Make America Healthy Again, brought up RFK. They both like RFK, and talked about these problems in the country that have been under the surface for a long, long time that no one has been addressing, but are now coming to the forefront in the public eye. And I think saying, like when he said, I'm going to have RFK in charge of this, and Joe asked, are you committed to having him in your cabinet? And Trump said, yes. I want him to figure out why we're so sick. And he brought this chart that showed that Americans are so sick compared to everybody else in the world. And explaining that we're not going to ban like fast food. We're not going to have the sugar tax. We're not going to do that stuff. What we are going to do is ban all the chemicals that every other country in the world bans. And the reason we don't have them banned is because we have lobbies against it, right? Big Pharma wants people to be sick so they can sell drugs. Joe Rogan mentioned that, we're one of 2 countries that can advertise drugs on TV. That's pretty bad to me, because it's not, I'm going to my doctor recommends something. It's, I'm going to recommend something that my doctor give me, and they might sign off on it. Big difference in how the order of operations in that goes. And so, and Joe even said, and Trump agreed, that a big problem in the country is metabolic health. It's not, all these drugs are almost unnecessary from the get-go. The problem is that they're masking symptoms or treating symptoms of metabolic health problems. So just problems that could be solved with your diet and exercise. These drugs are fixing the problems that are caused because you're not, having a proper diet and exercising. So what we need to get back to is a more health-based kind of view of treating ourselves, not drug-based, a more holistic view. Now, I'm not saying all those drugs and everything is bad, but certainly there's incentives to make a lot of money by people being sick. That's pretty, I think, on both sides of the aisle. People can agree that big pharma is way out of hand. And so Trump's saying we're going to go after them and we're going to do these things that make American life better. We're not going to change it. We're going to make it better, right? Instead of McDonald's using all these seed oils that kill you and poison you and all these chemicals, we're going to go back to beef tallow. We're going to go back to more natural things, right? You can still have McDonald's. It'll just actually be better for you. So I thought that was the best part. When he talked about tariffs, that was really good. When he talked about getting really the income tax, he just hinted at it. I wish he talked about it more because that is a winning issue for sure. Is like basically what I wanted Trump to do is I wanted him to explain how the structure of the United States that we have currently does not need to be the way that it is. The things that we accept in modern American society are not the way things have to be. When I talk to people in older generations, they have this expectation that there's always more crime in city, hundreds of times more crime in cities, and it's natural. Well, no, you look at some countries around the world, you look at Singapore, you look at Hong Kong, you look at Dubai, you look at Tokyo, like the crime rate significantly lower in some of these cities around the world. But America, we just accept it, right? We accept structural problems like crime. We accept that our infrastructure is just bad. Like people can't get internet. They were talking about Starlink and it's like, yeah, we just, some places are rural and rural life comes with these problems. Like you can't get internet and water and all, okay, well, why are we accepting that? Why are we accepting that we have to pay half our money that we make to the government instead of, oh, well, we can actually, if we do this and that, we switch out the system we have. We use more tariffs, less taxes, these incremental changes that will change the fabric of American society, that we just accept these horrible things really as just status quo. Like, oh, the food we eat is just poison, but there's nothing I can really do about it. I can just slightly eat better. Well, no, we're going to change that. So, you don't have the option of unintentionally poisoning yourself or even intentionally poisoning yourself. We're not going to let you do that. Right. So that's the kind of things I wanted to see. And there was very much glimpses of it in Trump's policy. They didn't get into it like too much, but that's what I want, is a comprehensive view of saying America is going to change because the structures we have are not good. Right. The bureaucracy is bad, and not just saying bureaucracy bad. Like, how are you going to get rid of it? What are you going to do? How are you going to tear it apart? I wanted more of that, and there wasn't quite enough, but I think it accomplished the goal of making Trump look more appealing. Right. The parts where they could have spent more time digging into that, they talked about kind of the common interest in the humanizing part. And while watching it, I was never like, like get to the point, because I thought that was good. I thought explaining who he is and showing that he's somebody you can vote for, even if it's just slightly more palatable to people. I think that was kind of the goal, because I don't think people were really watching this for like a ton of policy, right? Like Joe was going to ask questions. That was obvious. He answered them all, except for ones about strategic things like Ukraine and Russia, and saying like, I know what I would say to each of them. I have a plan. I would sit them down. I know them both. He said very confidently, I know exactly what I'd say to both of them, but I can't tell you because that's like you're about to go negotiate with somebody and you text them your entire plan of what you're going to say to them. Not smart. And I think Americans kind of have that. They don't quite understand that like when you're running for an election, every other world leader is watching everything you say. So you got to be a little bit careful about revealing all your plans. But besides that, he answered all the questions pretty thoroughly, I thought. I think Joe pressed him and got good answers out of him. Tried to keep him on topic because Trump does like to go off topic a lot. But I think overall, it was a success. I mean, there's a possibility it could be the most viewed podcast ever. It was definitely the most anticipated podcast ever. Clash of the Titans for sure. And we'll have to see. I don't think Kamala's going on. I think that's pretty clear. He said that he's still wanting her to come on. It's probably not going to happen because she can't do that. She can't do 3 hours of just talking off the cuff. And then, they're just talking about their interests. And then suddenly Joe's like, asks him a really, really hardcore policy question, right? She can't do that. She can't handle that without a script. So, but even when Trump said, I want to do this again, like that's confidence. He's like, yeah, I'd love to do this again. This was fun. Let's keep talking about it. And I think there's a lot more ground to cover next time if they do it. It's probably going to be after the election, certainly. But I like seeing this. I like seeing that Trump is more humanized. I like him going into a lot of these issues that are coming up that maybe he'll do something about, maybe he won't. He was talking about nuclear energy and kind of that transition and stuff like that is on the forefront to like serious questions and problems that are coming to the forefront over the next couple decades we will have to answer, right? The whole big pharma thing, that's not going to get solved under Trump's presidency. There's no way that we can make America healthy again in 4 years solely. Like we can do a lot. We can cut the problem in half just by banning all the chemicals everybody else bans and the pesticides, whatever. That would be great. But tackling these systems, ripping them apart, tearing apart all the bureaucracy, getting rid of these bad people, these corrupt actors, the lobbyists, the liars, the corruption in the media, all this sort of stuff, right? The ballot interference, like the election interference, all this sort of problems are going to still be problems whether Trump wins or not. Like that is a lot to handle for one person, especially when you have to do the job of cleaning up after the last guy. Throughout the entire world, we got to go and clean up all these problems with either literal active combat or, just financial combat with certain countries and what we're doing and bringing our manufacturing back. So there's a lot to get done. And I want to hear more about what Trump's vision is to do all that and where he wants America to be. Where does he want America to be in 50 years when he's gone, right? What is the dream beyond yourself? That would be a more humanizing thing, especially is like, this is the one world I want to see. This is the path I want to set us on, even if I won't see it. Like, this is my 50, 100-year plan, dream. That's what every other country in the world does. Serious countries like China has a 100-year plan. Russia has a 100-year plan. They look very much into the future of like, what's our stability going to be like? What's our economy going to be like? What's our demographics going to be like? And now they do create a lot of problems for themselves, but they have at least that goal. America's like, what are we doing in the next 4 years? And then, let's get the next guy. Let's go for 4 years. Like we look ahead maybe 4 years at a time, maybe 8 if we're pushing it, but really like 4 years at a time, which is not a great idea. So I want to see more. I really enjoyed it. I thought it went well. I thought it was good. And I think that this is going to sway maybe some people, maybe convict more people to go out and vote for him. People who are passive, people who are very much on the fence, independents. You won't see this sort of thing from Kamala. And that's the big difference is before she had that disastrous town hall on CNN. And then right after you have Donald Trump doing a 3-hour interview with somebody. So there's a big difference there, and people will vote for what they know more because humans do not like the unknown. That's like our biggest fear is the unknown. And so more about Trump. You may not like him. This may have changed your mind a little bit. I don't think it's going to be like, massive, like big change in the polls or whatever, but I think it will have an effect. And remember, he lost in 2020 by a couple tens of thousands of votes in very key areas. So if that amount can change, that's all we need. So that's my thought on this. I thought it was worth watching. If you haven't watched it yet, go on YouTube, watch it. Go on Spotify, watch it. Worth it. And let me know what you think. Like if you thought he did well or not, or what you wanted to see more of. Like even if you don't like Trump, what questions would you have wanted Rogan to ask him about? And dig into. That's interesting to me is what people wanted to see from this versus what they got. So let me know all that down in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.